My name is Kumar Goswami. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Komprise. So what we're going to present to you today, I think is really quite interesting. We're really focused on how do you better manage your data cost effectively and extract value from that data while leveraging the full potential of the cloud. And unfortunately, you can't just toss data into the cloud and have it all happen. It's got to be done in a particular way so that you can leverage it well. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So with that, let's get started. Now, I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but as you probably very well know, there's this massive movement to the cloud. And that's happened for many, many reasons. One, of course, as you know, is a pandemic. Because of the pandemic, many folks have wanted to be able to access their infrastructure remotely, and having a cloud makes things a lot easier. There's been a lot of focus on data center consolidation. Let's not build out any more data centers. Can we leverage all the cool infrastructure that's already in the cloud? So this IT modernization effort and focus, in many ways accelerated by the pandemic, is one of the reasons for that movement to the cloud. But another is that the fact is that the cloud is elastic. You can get elastic compute. And now, if you look at the cloud, a lot of services that you can get, third-party services, as well as services provided by the cloud providers themselves that allow you to do all kinds of things much more easily, much more readily. And so, in addition to that, what's happened recently is that there's been now some solid cloud file systems developed by the cloud service providers themselves, as well as third-party file system companies. And now that has allowed us to be able to now move workloads that were file dependent, that required files to be able to go to the cloud. And now you can have file-based workloads running in the cloud. So that has also accelerated, this whole cloud tiering and tiering to cloud file systems. And finally, the other catalyst behind this trend to move data to the cloud has to do with the fact that the industry has recognized that the bulk of our data is cold, by which I mean data that you've accessed and haven't touched in 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. Doesn't make sense to put that kind of data on expensive platforms when you're not using it. And so one of the thoughts is, why not put it in the cloud? Put in some cheap tier in the cloud and save money. Well, if you do it right, you can save money and extract value. If you don't, it can actually cost you more, because with the cloud, you're renting everything. So you have to be very careful how you use the cloud so that you can get the maximum potential that the cloud provides. All right, so with that, let's talk about, how do you get the most out of the cloud? The key thing is to be able to move data to the cloud in native format. You want to be able to access any data that you put in the cloud, directly through the cloud without some shim in the middle. Right? So therefore, you don't want to put it in some proprietary format. You want to be able to put it in a native format. And that allows you to access to all these services that are in the cloud. If you have to put a shim in, that reduces that marketplace of services that you have access to. And you have all these different tiers in the cloud. You want to be able to take this data, and based on these tiers, and these tiers, by the way, have different characteristics, different resiliency characteristics, different fault tolerant characteristics, different performance characteristics. So you want to be able to take a look at your data, and based on how you're using it, its value to you, you want to be able to put it in these different tiers and access services off those tiers. That is very, very critical. And so we're going to talk about that. And how to really do that so that you can maximize data efficiency, maximize access to all these data services, and be able to do cost-effective management while really leveraging the cloud. So if you look at things, a lot of folks, let's say, for example, you want to tier to the cloud. You've got all this files, on-premises file systems, and you think, hey, why not just tier the data to the cloud? They've got an easy button, makes it easy, and let's get moving, right? Well, remember that the file servers, these file systems, are designed to be really fast. They usually have some proprietary block system underneath those files with which they can give you the performance that you're looking for. And so when you tier using these storage arrays, what happens is you're moving blocks, proprietary blocks, to the cloud. And when you move proprietary blocks to the cloud, you don't even necessarily have the entire data set there. And as a result, you can't avail yourself of all these services that are there. And the cloud has been continuously creating newer and newer tiers with different price and performance characteristics. If that storage array uses a particular set of tiers and new tiers come in, you're beholden until the storage array changes and can move it to these other tiers. So you can't even utilize the full impact of the cost savings that even the cloud provides if you do it this way. So it's very, very important that you think in terms of moving things in a way that is not proprietary and that leverages all the aspects of the cloud. Now, let me give you a specific example so that you have a better sense of what I'm talking about and kind of put some numbers behind what I'm saying. Here I've got a table that kind of shows some of the tiers in a public cloud. Now, there's many, many tiers. I've just done a subset of them. But imagine that the lowest tier is, let's say, archive. Say, for example, Deep Glacier in AWS. And let's just say that its price is $1 for a particular unit of data. And what I've done is shown you what these other tiers are in AWS or typically other cloud offerings, and what the cost ratios are. So if you put a unit of data in archive, it costs you $1. But that same unit of data, if you put it in the SSD as a file, it's $126. Okay, just to kind of give you an understanding. Now, let's say that you want to migrate all these files. So your CEOs come in and said, hey, look, you've got all these files, servers. Let's migrate all this data to the cloud. And it's a like-to-like migration. And off you go, use a storage system to do that migration. Most of that data is going to end up in the file layer, right? SSD, if you want the best performance. And these cloud tiering solutions, they have built-in tiering. So once it's in here in this high-end SSD, you're getting great performance. But after some time, if you're not using that data, it will tier down to the next level, next lower level. And now you're probably getting a 3x cost savings. Not bad, right? But remember what I told you, that the bulk of our data today is cold. About 80% typically is cold. So does it make sense migrate all your data to these file storage tiers, given the cost differential? Probably not. So if you were smart about it, you could look at this and actually migrate the cold data into one of these object layers. Now, what does that require? That requires you to convert that file into an object. Right? But if you could do that, the savings is massive, 30x savings. So you could put 80% of your cold data here, and the remaining 20% you can put in here. And then once it's in the cloud, again, you can tier from here all the way down to here. So the difference is that when you do tiering to a storage array or to storage-centric approach, you are stuck in these expensive tiers. If you were to do things with something like that's data-centric and that can fundamentally convert and maintain a file to object duality, you can have massive savings. In fact, I would tell you it's about 30x savings. But conservatively, you can say that if you do it this way, it's 1/10 the cost. Now, that's great. Cost savings is always good. But as I mentioned to you, we're focused on achieving the full potential of the cloud. So it's not just about cost. If you look at it, I've got the same tiers over here, and I'm looking at the usability. How much of the services can I use once it's in the cloud? If you look at it, the bulk of the cloud services out there today are object-based, right? So if your file is in these layers, you can use all sorts of services that the cloud and third-party vendors provide. If you're up here, you don't have anywhere near that access. And so it's not just about cost. If you want to access the full potential of the cloud, you really need to be able to take data from these tiers, put them into these kinds of tiers that allow you access to all of these kinds of services that are out there. The cloud is a marketplace, and you want to be able to access that. And to be able to do this, what is critical here is to be able to create something, to use, I would say, an independent data management solution. that is independent of storage, that doesn't use a storage-centric approach, but rather a data-centric approach for leveraging the cloud, for managing the data in the cloud and being able to feed and work with services that are running in the cloud. And that's essentially what we do at Komprise. It is an independent data management layer working at the data-centric level. It works across all your on-prem file systems, on-prem object stores, as well as data that you already have in the cloud across various different clouds.
So now I'm going to ask you to provide your definition of unstructured data. I know in other presentations we've had discussions about this, so I'd like to give you the opportunity to tell us what you mean by that.
Okay, so we've been especially focused on unstructured data, and very quickly, unstructured data to me is any data that doesn't fit nicely in a database. Okay, so if you look at things like MRIs, or genomics data, or IoT data. If you've been using an electric car, chances it's an IoT data. Some of you guys flew in here. There's all kinds of log data that your Airbus or your Boeing generated. All of these come in massive sizes, all kinds of formats. That's unstructured data. And the massive growth that has been taking place that we're seeing, 85, 90% of the data is unstructured. And that is what we are especially focused on. I appreciate that question, by the way.
Okay. So, but now I have my foundation, so I can ask better questions. So thank you for that.
Okay. Yeah. So we are looking at your unstructured data across your file systems, across your object stores on premise, as well as the stuff that you have in the cloud. And what we focus on is a structured way to manage unstructured data. Okay. And that comes out with three things. One, we provide visibility into all your data, regardless of where it is, across data centers, across edge data centers, across your cloud silos. All right. One place to go and look at all your data, understand how much you have, how fast it's growing. You can actually find a needle in the haystack. You can find one file among a billion files. The other thing is it's great to be able to find the files and get an understanding, but it's no good if you have to go somewhere else to then operate on it. So what we have is a platform that not only allows you to find those files and understand and get insight into those files, but then be able to operate on it, by which I mean you can tier it, you can migrate it, you can mobilize it. And you're going to see a lot of demos about this today. And then the other thing is you can actually build applications using smart data workflows, which again, we're going to show you today, that allows you to create applications that feed AI engines, that feed your governance applications, and that allow you to sort of create these continuous workflows that you need to be continuously managing the data that's flowing into your system. And again, as I mentioned, the data is growing like crazy. So you want something that's automated and that's continuous. So a little bit about us. Again, we focus on unstructured data management. It's a SaaS service. It's a scale-out solution, and we'll show you some of the architecture down in a bit. And basically, it grows as the customer's data grows. We have alliance partnerships with several folks. IBM and HPE resell us. We have some very close relationships with AWS and Microsoft Azure. We're a part of an Azure program where if a customer moves any data to Azure Cloud using Komprise, Azure pays Komprise. So it's free to the customer. That's huge. So if you are thinking about moving data to the cloud, think about possibly leveraging that program because it reduces your cost. And the other thing is most of our customers are Fortune 500 customers, very data heavy enterprises. And on the right, you can kind of see some of the feedback that we get. It's been excellent. And so take a look at that. We've been focused on a couple of things here. Like, for example, one of our customers, I won't go into a lot of use cases, but one of our customers, for example, during a critical development cycle, their CEO decided that they don't want to build out any more data centers. They don't want to build out more on-premise storage. So they leveraged Komprise to continuously tier data to the cloud. And because of our ability to move files and make them look like objects on the data side, on the cloud side, and yet they still look like files on the source side, on the on-premise side, what happens is we're able to do this tiering with no disruption to users or applications, while enabling the researchers to be able to leverage the cloud for all sorts of research services that they couldn't have used before. And in the process, in 1 year, they saved over $2.5 million. So that's the kind of stuff that we do. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is the 80% reduction. As you probably know, a significant part of doing AI is really collecting the data that you need for that analysis. You have people calling each other up, different researchers, and do you have this kind of data? Do you have that kind of data? How can we migrate that data into one place so that we can leverage it? Well, with Komprise, what we're going to show you today is that you can actually write queries to find that data across your global landscape, and then be able to operate on that data mathematically and do what you need to do. It's very, very powerful, and it really reduces that entire effort of trying to go out and find and gather your data so that you can do AI or so that you can do governance or compliance. The key thing that I want to bring up in this slide is it's a platform. The thing is all integrated, and the key pieces is this global file index that gives you that insight and that allows you to find a needle in a haystack across your entire data footprint. The fact that we can mobilize data, copy, copy, migrate, tier is important no matter where that file is located or that data is located. And the fact that we can create smart data workflows using policy-based automation so that you can create fundamental applications that feed your AI or feed your governance services. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to have a demo that kind of shows you how we do smart data workflows. That's the rightmost thing there. And so it give you a sense of how that works. We're also going to talk about the visibility in the global file index that allows and enables smart data workflows. And we're going to actually give it a chalk talk. We'll demonstrate it, and then we'll give you a chalk talk. And finally, mobility, the transparent move technology, the patented technology that we have. We've done a field day on this before, so that you can go to, you can go to komprise.com/TMT, and you can see all kinds of information about how we maintain that file and object duality.